Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to go over the anatomical terms and references that you need to know in order to pass your Pilates exam and teach Pilates. Since I'm STOTT trained, I will be using the anatomical references list that's located in the support material that you are required to have for your STOTT training. However, if you are not studying through STOTT, you should still have some kind of book with the same list of references or a very similar list of references. And you can also find the same or a very similar list in the National Pilates Certification Exam Study Guide. And then for the definitions and references for this list of anatomical terms, I will be using both the Trail Guide to the Human Body and Anatomy of Movement reference books. Both of these books are usually recommended or required for most Pilates courses. So if you have your own copies, go ahead, grab them, read along with them as we go through these terms. The first thing we're going to focus on are the directions and positions of the body and on the body when it comes to movement or relating to the body. Now, this isn't in the support material, but you do need to know what anatomical position is. That's just essentially somebody standing in front of you, looking directly at you with their palms facing forwards, or someone lying down, staring up the ceiling with their palms facing forwards. So this is anatomical position, and from this is what we will reference everything else. Now, in anatomical position, we have an imaginary line that runs right through the center of the body, dividing it in half. It kind of goes through between the eyes, the belly button, through the heart, all the way down. This is called your midline. It's imaginary, but that is the middle of the body with somebody facing forwards looking at you. Now, anything that's located closer to this midline or any movement towards this midline is called medial. Now, anything moving away from this midline is called lateral. So opposite to medial is lateral, things moving away from that midline or located away from that midline. Lateral also means side. So if you already speak like a Latin language, you already know that. Or if you just are used to hearing about players in a game moving laterally, you know that lateral means side. So anything located on the side is lateral. And then that's why our latissimus dorsi are muscles on the side in the back. Sometimes we just call them lats, but that's coming from the word lateral. The next term we're going to look at is anterior. So again, if you have any Latin language background, you already know what this means. And it's just anything closer to the front of the body. So your nose is anterior on your body. Your chest is anterior on your body. Your six-pack, your rectus abdominis, is anterior on your body. And opposite to anterior is posterior. So that's anything that's closer to the back of your body in anatomical position. So your shoulder blades are posterior. Your glutes are, or your glute maximus, are posterior. Your hamstrings are posterior on your body. The next term we're going to look at is superior. Superior refers to anything that's closer to the top of the body, closer to the head. So superior just means at the top. So obviously your head is superior. Your shoulder blades are superior to your feet. Anything moving up towards that, moving up towards your head is considered a superior movement. And then opposite to superior is inferior, anything moving down closer to your feet or anything located closer to your feet. So your knees are inferior to your pelvis, your knees are inferior to your heart. The term proximal refers to anything that's closer to your trunk. I also remember the definition of anything that's closer to the heart is considered proximal. So your rib cage is proximal. Your shoulder is proximal. Your hands are not proximal. And so distal is the opposite of proximal. Your hands, your fingers, they're distal. And that means that they're located further away from the trunk or further away from the body's midline. So your fingers are distal, your toes are distal, your calves are distal. The next term we're going to go over is superficial. Superficial pretty much refers to anything that's closer towards the surface of the body, anything that's closer to the skin. So you have superficial muscles and you have deep muscles. Deep muscles are going to be the opposite to superficial. They're going to be muscles that are located farther away from the surface of the body. So your glute minimus is deeper than your glute maximus. And it might make more sense to think about one body part in relation to another body part. So your pectoralis major is superficial in relation to your rib cage because it's closer to the surface, closer to the skin than your rib cage is. And then your rib cage is opposite to that in relation to the pectoralis major. Your rib cage is deep, a structure deeper in the body. So even though the rib cage isn't super deep in the body, it's still towards the top. In relation to the pectoralis major, it's considered deep. But if we compared the rib cage to the heart, that would flip. So the rib cage would be superficial in relation to the heart, but your heart would be deep in relation to the rib cage. The next category we're going to look at are the planes of movement. There are 3 directions in which your body moves, and we call these the 3 planes of movement. There's median, sometimes called sagittal, frontal, sometimes called coronal, and transverse. In anatomical position, median or sagittal plane cuts the body in half, right through that midline. So a lot like a median on the street cuts a street in half and you drive on one side or the other, the median or the sagittal plane cuts the body right through the center. Another way to remember sagittal, if you look at the first part of the word, it's the same as Sagittarius. So a Sagittarius is one of the centaurs in Greek mythology, and that half man, half horse really just moves forwards and backwards. So that would be sagittal movement. The next plane of movement that we have is frontal or coronal. So this plane divides the body from the front and the back. Your pecs, your face would be on the front half of that divide. Your glute maximus and your shoulder blades would be on the back half of that divide. And so when the body or a part of the body is moving to the right or to the left, it's moving in that frontal or coronal plane, which you can see in this example of side splits. And if you look at the example for front splits, you can see that the body is moving forwards and backwards, which means it's moving in that median or sagittal plane. The last plane of movement we have is the transverse, or sometimes called horizontal plane. This plane cuts right through the center of the body and it divides the top from the bottom. Movements in this plane tend to involve your obliques twisting the body from the top in one direction to your bottom in the opposite direction, or holding one side stable as either the lower or upper part of your body twists from one side to the other. This has your obliques working contralaterally, so internal, external, left and right work contralaterally to make this movement in the transverse plane. Our next category is movements at the joints. Your joints move in a variety of different directions, and the body parts attached to those joints are going to follow those movements depending on the type of joint. The first movement at the joint we're going to look at is flexion and extension. Flexion is when the bones get closer together. And then extension would be the opposite to that, when the bones move farther apart. So in anatomical position, most joints are in extension. If you're studying STOTT Pilates, lift and lower with your feet in the straps would be an example of flexion and extension at the hip. Lateral flexion is when you bend your spine to the side laterally, and it can only be done in the spine, including lateral flexion at the neck. Next, we're going to look at adduction and abduction. Abduction or abduction happens when a limb moves laterally away from the midline of the body. Abduct literally means to take away, so that's essentially what you're doing with that limb. You're taking it away from the body. Opposite to abduction is adduction or adduction. Looking at the root word add will help us remember that we're adding the limb back to the body. Adduction. Lateral rotation or external rotation happens when you rotate or swing your arm or leg away from the midline of the body. Medial rotation or internal rotation happens when you rotate that limb towards the midline of the body. Both medial and lateral rotation only happen at the shoulder and hip joint because they're ball and socket joints. Another movement that can only happen at the hip and shoulder joints is circumduction. So this is when we do feet and straps leg circles. The legs move in all directions: flexion, extension, adduction, and abduction. All of these movements can happen again because of that ball and socket joint that is at the hip joint and the shoulder joint. And these are your most mobile joints. Next, we're going to look at movements of the shoulder blades. Your shoulder blades or scapula move in 3 different directions. Retraction is when your shoulder blades glide towards each other or towards the spine. Protraction is when the shoulder blades slide away from each other or they slide away from the spine. Elevation is when your shoulder blades slide upwards, they elevate, they move up like an elevator. Depression of the scapula is when the shoulder blades slide down, the opposite to elevation, depression. Upward rotation is what happens when your shoulder blades rotate upwards. The Trail Guide to the Human Body says to think of a bell ringing to help you remember. And downward rotation is when your shoulder blades rotate back down. If you're studying through STOTT Pilates, we do this upward and downward rotation in the mid-back series, number 4. Now we're going to look at plantar flexion of the ankle. So plantar flexion is performed by moving the ankle to point your foot into the earth or stepping on a car's gas pedal. An easy way to remember this is just thinking that plantar flexion starts with a P and so does point. And opposite to plantar flexion is dorsiflexion. So instead of pushing on the gas pedal, you're lifting your foot off the gas pedal and your heel goes down. And an easy way to remember this is just to think of a dorsal fin. That's what your foot looks like in dorsiflexion. Supine is when you're lying on your spine facing up, and supination of the forearm is when those palms are facing up as if you're carrying bowls of soup. And pronation is the opposite to that. So when you're lying prone, you're lying face down and your palms are face down. Our final category is going to be muscular contractions. Your muscles react to tension and resistance in a few different ways, creating a muscular contraction. A concentric contraction creates a shortening of the muscle where the insertion and the origin moves closer together. The way I was taught to remember concentric was to think of your muscles moving up towards the clouds, and concentric and clouds both start with a C. Also, if you think about a bicep curl, it kind of looks like a cloud. Opposite to concentric is eccentric, a lengthening of that muscle. And what helped me to remember that is that eccentric and elastic both start with an E, and it's like you're lengthening that muscle like an elastic band. Both concentric and eccentric contractions are isotonic. That means that the muscles are moving. So any movement of the body is using isotonic contractions. And opposite to isotonic is isometric. That's when there is no change in the muscle length or movement in the body when the muscles are reacting to tension. A plank is an excellent example of where you would use isometric contractions. And that's it for the video, guys. If you have any tips or tricks to help Pilates instructors and student instructors learn and remember anatomical terms and references for Pilates, please feel free to write that down in the comments below. I do plan on making more videos going a bit deeper into Pilates anatomy, so if that's something that you're interested in, please make sure to subscribe and you'll get that notification as soon as I can upload it.